What if your next harvest didn't come from store-bought pots or raised beds, but from that pile of trash behind your house? In today's episode, we'll explore 15 brilliant and unexpected ways to grow pakcoy using discarded bottles, coconut shells, crates, and more. These aren't just garden ideas, they're creative survival stories. Hi, and welcome to Modhouse DIY, where we turn simple materials into soulful DIY garden magic. This video is packed with real-life ideas, each with its own timestamp. Feel free to jump to the parts you love most. And if you enjoy it, leave a comment, ask a question, or share your creation. You never know who might be inspired next. Maybe to you, I'm just another face on a screen. But behind this content, there's a real story, and a real family. This isn't just a video. It's a piece of my heart. Every like, every comment, every subscribe, it truly matters. When you hit that subscribe button, you're not just helping a creator grow. You're helping a dream stay alive. You're giving a small family hope, one click at a time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for seeing me. Like cradles in the wind, each one home to a small, determined patch of pakcoy. No soil beds. No garden plots. Just the husk, some breath of leaf mold, and water below waiting to rise. It started with a walk, one of those slow ones after the rain. The gardener passed a pile of discarded husks, their rough brown skin still smelling of sweet earth. A thought surfaced. Could these hold life again? Each husk was cleaned, hollowed gently with a spoon, and filled with a soft mix of dried leaves and cocoa peat. Instead of planting in soil, she let the roots hover, suspended just above bowls of water. A single cotton wick ran beneath, pulling moisture up like the quiet rhythm of breath. And then, the waiting began. Days passed. Leaves unfurled. The husk swelled with rain, darkening like aged leather, while the pakcoy danced above in soft green bursts. There is no pump here. No system. Just gravity, capillary pull, and a little hope. This garden doesn't ask for space or perfection. It invites you to begin with what you have, a coconut husk, a bit of thread, and something to nurture. Hang it from a window, a trellis, or the corner of your porch. Let it sway and soak and grow. You'll see that even the things we throw away still remember how to hold life. And in this, you might remember too. Once, they stood in kitchens and office corners, full of clean drinking water. Now, laid on their sides beneath a cloudy sky, these old gallons carry something new, the weight of a hopeful garden. In a season when soil turns to soup and seeds drown before their first breath, these jugs become lifeboats for pakcoy dreams. Each one is cut open with care, cleaned of memory, then pierced at the bottom to breathe. Into this soft blue shell, the gardener poured her own mixture: earth, burnt rice husks, and just enough space to cradle each seedling. No fertilizer yet. No need to rush. Just patience, like rain knows patience. She tied clear plastic sheets above the planters, a makeshift canopy stitched together with grocery twine. It doesn't block the sky, only filters it, letting light in, keeping the floods at bay. And then it rained. Not too much. Not too little. The water trickled through the holes, never pooling, never drowning. The leaves stood straighter by morning. The garden didn't just survive the storm. It found rhythm in it. These jugs, lined like sentinels, hold more than plants. They hold proof that even waste has a second act. That even without land, you can lift the earth with your own hands. Just 3 gallons are enough to begin. Maybe 1. Maybe that one forgotten jug behind your house is your first raised bed, your rainproof beginning. And maybe, in watching something grow inside it, you'll remember how little it takes to create something good. When the rains came too heavy, too fast, she didn't fight the sky, she filtered it. From leftover plastic sheets and a handful of curved bamboo rods, the gardener built arches. Simple ones. Like ribs of a whale, rising from both sides of a narrow garden bed. Over them, she laid the plastic, stretched and fastened with stones, clothespins, and a quiet determination. It didn't need to be perfect. It just needed to breathe. Inside this humble dome, the world changed. The air grew still, warm. Raindrops no longer slammed down but kissed the plastic and rolled gently off. And beneath it all, Pakcoy stood calmly, their leaves dry, roots grounded, spirits high. The tunnel didn't lock nature out. It only softened it. Light still poured through, golden at sunrise, silvery at dusk. The wind still whispered. And the rain still sang, just from the other side of a clear veil. Neighbors stopped to ask what it was. A greenhouse, they guessed. She smiled and said, a shield that breathes. You don't need fancy materials. Just something bendable for the frame, old wire, split bamboo, even umbrella bones. A sheet of clear plastic or recycled packaging wrap. And the will to keep your garden safe when the skies turn wild. This tunnel is not just structure. It's a pause. A little dome of peace. A quiet hand between chaos and growth. And when you sit nearby with your tea, watching the Pakcoy bathe in filtered light, you'll understand, sometimes the smallest shelters create the most beautiful harvests. The garden didn't ask for sunlight to come closer, it rolled itself into the light. In a small backyard surrounded by tall trees, the sun danced in slivers, never staying still. One spot bright in the morning, another glowing only at dusk. The gardener, tired of chasing the sun with potted plants, decided to let the garden chase back. She found an old wooden crate, once a forgotten bench. With care, she sanded it smooth, lined it with plastic, and added holes for drainage. Then came the wheels, scavenged from a broken stroller, creaky but still turning. She planted her pakcoy deep into a light mix of soil and husk. And every morning, with coffee in one hand and hope in the other, she nudged the bed toward the sun's softest beam. By noon, the wheels rolled again. In the evening, she'd tuck it back beneath the porch roof, safe from heavy rain. The mobile bed didn't just grow vegetables. It grew rhythm, a slow dance between sunlight and intention. You don't need a big space. Just 4 small wheels, a wooden box, and a willingness to move with the day. This garden adapts with you. It follows warmth. It dodges storms. It whispers, "We're not stuck." And when you sit beside it, maybe on a crate, maybe on stone, and watch your pakcoy stretch toward a patch of late golden light, you'll feel something move inside you, too. A reminder, you can grow, even when the light is fleeting. It began with one plank of wood, leaning lonely against the garden wall. There wasn't space for rows or beds, only a narrow corner kissed by 2 hours of sun each day. But the gardener saw not limits, only direction. Up, she thought. Let's grow up. She gathered plastic bottles, soda, mineral water, whatever she could find. She cut them open, layered them across shelves fastened to the wood frame, and punched tiny holes in each cap. A single tube stretched from the top shelf, carrying water like a gentle cloud. Drip by drip, the garden began. Pakcoy seeds nestled in dark soil, a mix of compost and husk, sprouted in tidy rows. Water trickled downward from shelf to shelf, each plant receiving its quiet sip. There were no pumps, no timers. Just gravity, rhythm, and the soft labor of care. This tower doesn't need land. It asks only for a wall, a few bottles, and the patience to watch something climb. And there's beauty in the simplicity, in the way the light hits each bottle differently, in how the leaves reach through plastic, translucent and tender. It's a living wall of purpose, grown from waste, watered by time. You can build one, too. Any old frame will do. Mount it near a porch, a balcony rail, or a backyard fence. Let the bottles hang. Let the water fall. And as you miss the top layer or harvest the bottom one for dinner, you'll feel it, the joy of building upward. The wonder of watching green flow, one quiet drop at a time. Where wind always seemed to whistle and drizzle came uninvited, a gardener found her answer, stacked high in her kitchen cabinet. Not new planters. Not expensive domes. Just lids. Clear ones. The kind that once held noodles, cakes, or leftovers long gone. She flipped one over, tucked a small yogurt tub inside, and planted a single pakcoy seed in damp soil. Then, like placing a glass bell over a flame, she lowered the lid, not to trap, but to hold. By the next morning, the dome was beaded with mist. Warmth lingered. The air inside danced with stillness. Outside, the wind snapped, but within that tiny world, green began to breathe. Soon, there were rows. On windowsills, porch rails, even the top of an old refrigerator dragged outdoors. Each container held a small beginning, life curled in a humid hush. There is magic in transparency. You don't need space. Just one lid, one container, and something you're willing to protect. The plastic may be scratched or stained, but the light still finds its way in. The seed still rises. This Tupperware greenhouse is not about size. It's about intent. About noticing what you already have and letting it do something new. And when you peel the lid back one misty morning, and the leaves inside shine like small lanterns, you'll understand, protection doesn't always mean closing something in. Sometimes it just means holding space gently, until it's strong enough to reach for the rain. When the earth turned to soup and puddles swallowed the roots, she looked toward the grove. Behind her house, tall bamboo stood in quiet rhythm, strong, hollow, waiting. And in their stillness, she saw structure. With a machete, she sliced only the greenest poles. Not brittle. Not dry. Each one was split down the center, their ribs curved like cupped hands. She tied them with jute rope, weaving a frame that held without walls. No nails. No plastic. Just intention and tension. She raised the frame slightly on bricks and stone, just enough to lift it from the flood's breath. Inside, she poured a mix of crumbly compost and burnt husk. Airy. Kind. Ready to cradle. The pakcoy took to it quickly, roots unburdened by rot, leaves spared from splash. The bed didn't just grow food. It offered refuge. There is something ancient in bamboo. It holds without force. It bends without breaking. And when you build with it, you borrow its quiet strength. This revival bed isn't fancy. It asks only for what you already have, a few canes, some rope, and a reason to try again after the rain. And when the storm passes, and the mist rises, and your pakcoy leaves glisten in their lifted garden, you'll know, you didn't escape the flood. You rose above it. Not with concrete. Not with chemicals. But with something older. Something soft and strong. With bamboo. They once held soda, laughter, and summer. Now, they hold something quieter, beginnings. Along the porch, beneath the roof's edge, old plastic bottles hang by string like small floating beds. Cut open, cleaned, and pierced at the base, each one now cradles a handful of earth and 2 hopeful seeds. The soil is light, a blend of rice husk and compost. It drains just enough. The bottles sway gently with the breeze, misted by hand each morning, kissed by soft rain by night. It started one cloudy morning when the ground below was too soaked to plant. She looked up, then around. Bottles. Everywhere. In bags. Behind the gate. Forgotten. And suddenly, they weren't trash. They were containers of possibility. She cut them open with care, added drainage holes, and tied them with jute string under the eaves. No need for sun all day. Just a little light. Just enough sky. The Pakcoy grew. Their roots wrapped gently around the curve of the bottle. Their leaves reached beyond the plastic like hands remembering the wind. There was no garden bed here. No fence. Only air, string, and trust. You don't need space to begin. Just a few bottles. A bit of soil. Somewhere to hang them. And one day, as the breeze rustles through your wall of floating greens, you'll feel it, the beauty of simplicity. Of weightless growth. Of waste turned into quiet hope. And you'll know, this is gardening. Not in a grand field, but in the spaces between, where possibility hangs softly in the rain. The rain came early that year, steady and generous. But generosity turned to overflow, and her garden sank beneath the storm. Beds disappeared underwater. Seeds vanished in puddles. But on the porch, an old wooden crate caught her eye, once used for apples, now half forgotten, stained by time. She brought it close. Lined the inside with pieces of worn tarp and plastic bags rescued from the kitchen. Not perfect, some edges frayed, a few cracks sealed with tape. But once filled with sandy soil and ash-rich compost, it became an island in the flood. She planted her Pakcoy deep in that crate. Tucked under a small plastic sheet canopy, the box breathed. Drainage holes along the bottom kept the roots from drowning. The soil stayed light, never soaked. And in a few weeks, green rose where water once ruled. The rainproof crate garden was born. There's no blueprint here. Just adaptation. Just using what you have, a crate, a liner, a raised spot, and meeting the season with creativity. These crates don't just hold plants. They hold second chances. A way to grow when the ground is gone. A way to stay rooted even when the rain tries to wash it all away. And as the sky clears and you look down into those quiet boxes, filled with steady, growing life, you'll feel it. That peace doesn't always come from avoiding the storm. Sometimes, it comes from building something small and strong enough to rise above it. The shelf came from behind the repair shop, crooked, sun-bleached, left beside a pile of tin. Most would call it firewood. But to her, it looked like possibility. She carried it home on her shoulder, wiped off the dust, and leaned it against the old garden wall. No measuring tape. No sanding. Just instinct and intent. Then came the containers, a cracked mug with a faded flower, a soup can from last week's dinner, a jug with its handle melted slightly from the sun. Each one different. Each one a memory. She filled them with breath, a soil blend of compost and rice husk, and planted pakcoy seeds gently, one by one. No uniformity. No rules. Just stories, layered across levels. The shelf began to bloom. Not like a nursery, neat and polished. But like a poem. One where green spilled from coffee cups and roots whispered through tin. A layered garden that grew from waste and tenderness. This rustic shelf garden isn't about symmetry. It's about rhythm, the rhythm of reuse, of reaching up, of small vessels holding life. You can build one, too. With any wood, any wall, any empty cup or tin that once meant something. Stack them. Let them speak. Let them green. And one day, as you water the top and catch the earthy drip at the bottom, you'll see it clearly. This is more than a shelf. It's a portrait of care, standing against the wall, filled with green breath, one imperfect vessel at a time. It started with the whisper of restlessness, a gardener's need to plant, even when the garden itself lay too wet, too wild. She stood by the kitchen window, the rain tapping softly on the glass. There on the counter, the old egg carton waited to be tossed. But instead of throwing it away, she filled each pocket with a spoonful of warm, living soil. One seed per cell. That's all it took. Then came the wrap, just a thin sheet of clear plastic pulled from the pantry drawer. She stretched it gently over the tray, pressing the corners down with reused jar lids. And just like that, the carton became a world of its own. By morning, droplets clung to the underside like tiny constellations. The air inside held warmth, breath, potential. Little green points began to rise, slowly and surely. Protected from wind, spared from flood. This egg tray starter dome doesn't cost a thing. It doesn't need a greenhouse or grow light. Only what you already have, a tray, a wrap, a quiet corner of sun. And as the seedlings grow stronger, and you peel back the cover to let them meet the world, you'll feel it, the wonder of life held gently in recycled stillness. The garden doesn't always begin outside. Sometimes it starts in the carton. Sometimes it starts on the windowsill. Sometimes it starts in the small, warm place where nothing was supposed to grow. Until you gave it the chance. She needed a place to sit. After pulling weeds, misting leaves, and gathering compost in the morning rain, her legs ached. The only bench left in the garden had cracked along its seat, a shallow dip down the middle, like it, too, had sagged from the weight of time. But instead of mending it, she carved it deeper. She lined the groove with waterproof cloth, filled it with soil, soft, breathable, alive. Then she planted Pakcoy. Not many. Just enough to watch something green rise between her moments of stillness. And now, when she sits, the garden meets her halfway. This bench bed isn't just a seat, and it isn't just a planter. It's a pause. A moment made of wood, soil, and silence. A reminder that tending a garden can mean sitting beside it, breathing in its rhythm, feeling the leaves brush your hands while you rest. You don't need new furniture. Just something old enough to carry both weight and warmth. An unused bench. A broken table. A thick plank set between two bricks. Cut a cradle, line it well, and let the green grow where people gather. And when guests come to sit, when they reach down to touch the Pakcoy and ask, "Did you grow this right here?" You'll smile. Because the answer is yes. Right here. Beside stillness. Beside care. The leaves whispered first, not in words, but in lace. Tiny holes, scattered bites. A quiet invasion. But instead of reaching for poison, she reached for a banana. In her kitchen, the gardener mashed the overripe fruit into a jar. Added sugar water, a splash of vinegar. Stirred gently. It smelled strange, sweet, alive. She poured it into an old bottle, poked holes near the top, and hung it from a bamboo pole beside her Pakcoy. Within a day, it shimmered with life, not green life, but the kind drawn by decay. Flies came, curious and greedy. They went in. They didn't return. This was not war. It was redirection. Nearby, she left a shallow bowl of papaya juice on the soil. No lid. No bait. Just color, scent, stillness. The pests hovered, landed, and stayed. And while they gathered there, her garden grew untouched. This scent trap magic doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't cost money. It's not loud or chemical or cruel. It simply offers another option, a sweeter one, and nature listens. You can make your own. Slice a bottle, mash old fruit, add sugar and vinegar. Hang it beside your greens. Or pour juice into a dish and let it rest near your beds. No noise. No sprays. Just scent and patience. And when you check in the morning and see your Pakcoy leaves whole again, smooth, wide, unbitten, you'll smile. Not because you fought, but because you listened. She lifted the pale blue lid with the tenderness of opening a memory box. Inside, layers breathed, green, brown, and quiet. It wasn't a fancy bin. Just an old paint pail, its edges flaked with stories. But inside, something invisible was happening. Scraps from the kitchen. Leaves from the path. A handful of soil. Straw. A sprinkle of water. Then time. Every few days, she stirred it like a slow cooking pot. The scent shifted, from sharp to earthy, from waste to welcome. Small pockets of warmth rose up as the pile transformed. This was the garden's heart, beating in rhythm with decay and renewal. She didn't need a tumbler or a system. Just a bucket, a stick, and a quiet routine. And when the rains came, when the Pakcoy beds overflowed with green, she knew why the leaves shimmered with life. The compost fed not just roots, but story. The garden had eaten its own past, and bloomed. To make your own, find a lidded pail, from paint, oil, or plaster. Rinse it. Drill holes near the bottom. Start layering. Greens, fruit peels, veggie scraps, browns, dry leaves, paper, and stir every few days. Let air in. Let time do the rest. No rush. No perfection. And one morning, when you lift that lid and smell the deep, sweet earth, not rot, but rebirth, you'll understand. The garden grows from patience. And every leftover has a place to return. In one shaded corner of the garden, the air smelled different, not of compost or rain, but of remedy. Garlic, ginger, lemongrass, lime, and chili. The ingredients of her kitchen. The rhythm of her cooking. But now, also the rhythm of her garden's defense. She boiled them gently, strained the brew, and poured it into reused water bottles, each one infused with intention. Some hung from nails. Others rested in crates. Each was labeled in ink that smudged with use. This wasn't just storage. It was preparation. A quiet pharmacy built from scraps and scent. Each morning, she came here like a healer, choosing her mix, filling her sprayer, misting the Pakcoy with care. Not to harm, not to scare, but to whisper stay away in the language of plants and oils. And the pests listened. No chemicals. No burn. Just the strength of scent and the softness of routine. This kitchen scent defense wall isn't about gadgets or budgets. It's about knowing that the herbs we use to flavor food can also protect the hands that grow it. You can build one too. Start with what you cook. Simmer strong-smelling herbs. Let them cool. Pour into recycled bottles. Hang them somewhere dry and close. Label them with love. And when you stand there one morning, watching your Pakcoy glisten without a single bite on its leaves, you'll know. You didn't fight the pests. You outsmarted them. With memory, with scent, with kitchen wisdom reborn.